on the block with Frontier Opening Bell. It's Wednesday, the 22nd of November. Let's walk you through the trading day for the second day. The Nigerian market was about 0.08% in the green territory on Tuesday, the second trading day of the week, trying to claw back a bit of the decline we saw at the start of the week. On Monday, the BRVM was better strongly by 0.37%. The Egyptian market eked out just 6 basis points in the green territory, while the Nairobi stock market still cruising around the 90 reading on the all-share index by 0.41%. The GSE fell by 0.07%, and Zimbabwe stock market just 1 basis point in the green territory. Those galloping gains on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange decelerating in the last few sessions as we see it here from Frontier Africa Reports. Let's just take it up and look at the big headlines as we start the new business and markets day here across the continent, with falling shillings hurting a number of companies within the East African markets. In Kenya, Equity Bank reporting a decline in numbers for the third quarter. Kenya Power also seeing billions of shillings in losses within the period ended September, because the shilling is down massively since the start of the year. The fuel and electricity prices are set to go up in Kenya. That's no good news for the Ruto's administration, trying the balancing act of trying to take a fiscal balance and keeping its electoral promises. He became president just a little over a year ago. The KCB Group will be reporting its third quarter in September later today after the market closed in Nairobi. Keep an eye on those numbers. We got a few of the details for you when Frontier Africa reports return tomorrow. But you can check on our online later today as soon as those numbers are released on our social media as well as on our website, frontierafricareports.com. Goldman Sachs says it's oil at $92 next year on solid demand and low OPEC supply. OPEC will meet for the final time this year on Sunday, November the 26th. I'll keep an eye on that very important meeting to see whether Saudi Arabia will step in with more output if other members within the OPEC Plus decide not to raise their output. It's a little bit of demand-supply metrics that has been walked through the end of the year, but some analysts say it's $100 a barrel oil is not likely to come through this year. Again, as we've seen some good news out of Israel-Hamas war, with the potential deal of 50 hostages being released by Hamas, and Israel looking to pause a little in its offensive against Hamas for that deadly retaliation for that deadly October 7 attacks on Israel's soil. Let's move on with Afreximbank lending $95 million to 2 banks in Burundi. In West Africa, Wema Bank put pen to paper on Monday. $50 million is what the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development will be lending Nigeria's Tier 2 lender listed on the exchange for onwards lending into Nigeria's agribusiness sector. That's good news. In the meantime, EFDB is issuing between $500 million and $1 billion in fresh notes, a hybrid capital note, the first of its kind, before the end of this month. And the Bank of Ghana has fined and suspended the foreign exchange license of ZPay. The reason was because the company failed to adhere to Bank of Ghana's stipulation of guidelines regarding the exchange rates to be used for calculating diaspora remittances. And that news was officially flagged out yesterday by the Central Bank of Ghana. Fitch Ratings cut Cameroon's outlook from stable to negative. That's no good news for Nigeria's neighbor to the east. And it's Bank of Africa reporting third quarter net banking income up 11%. That's $1.2 billion in US dollar terms for the period ended September the 30th. Let's get September 30th. Let's go on to the Southern Africa. Today is a big day. We're looking at South Africa's inflation coming through this morning, 5.9%. Analyst expectation was for a 5.6. The figure for September was 5.4. The inflation headline for August was about 4.9%. And this perhaps gives some bullets for the firing that we expect the Reserve Bank to fire on Thursday. That's tomorrow, when Leseja Kyangango, the governor of the South Africa Central Bank, and the rest of his team, the 5 MPC members, will decide on the final interest rate decision for Africa's most advanced economy in 2023. Let's see how the decision will go tomorrow. Inflation in today in South Africa at 5.9%, according to early data. The country's business confidence slipped, however, to 31 points in Q4 against 33 points in the previous quarter. And South Africa is getting about $550 million from German Development Bank for energy transition. South Africa is getting a lot of help left, right, and center as the country moves towards reducing its carbon footprints. The JSE has approved secondary and fast-track listings from Hong Kong that could further expose JSE as the number 1 emerging market on the African and continent, and keying into Hong Kong, a major hub for emerging markets out of China in East Asia. Then you've got Zambia, and the IMF concluded a second review that will allow Zambia tap $182 billion or thereabout million out of the IMF, but there's no deal yet. All parties are back to the table, from China to other Western creditors, as far as Zambia's bonds concerned. It's no good news for President Hichilema, who's worked hard over the last 2 years to secure the G20, a deal within the G20 framework now that's been taken back to the drawing board for further evaluation and consensus among the bondholders. And finally, Zimbabwe Stock Exchange says it's going to start enforcing ESG reporting for all listed companies effective 2024. So let's take you to North Africa, where it's all rounding off the Frontier opening bell. The Wednesday, the Egyptian Stock Exchange is given an approval for the listing of Saudi Investment Bank's $173.5 million capital raising. The Suez Canal Bank has posted double-digit growth in the third quarter ended September, while the European Investment Bank, the EIB, has opened a new regional hub in Cairo, Egypt. And Morocco's phosphate giant, that's OCP, reporting a turnover of $6 billion at the end of September. And finally, the ATEC Tunisia third quarter, reporting consolidated turnover a decline of 26%. And that's not so much of a good news, as it were. But that's how we wrap up today's show on Frontier Opening Bell.